Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1030, Friday, January 31st, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll tell you, I was not going to do a video today because I'm having a hard time not coughing and hacking and wheezing my way through a video. But today's information is so incredible that I have to actually do the video because I want it documented in my video series of TowerGate videos. So if you can't handle my coughing and hacking through the video, you should probably turn it off now, because I'll likely be coughing and hacking through the entire video. But the information today is too important not to do the video. The second thing, yes, I know I misspelled the name of Sharamella. I did that on purpose, because if you type in the actual spelling of his name, your video will be yanked faster than you can say spit. And I don't want the video pulled, so I purposely misspelled the fake whistleblower's last name in the title of the video. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get started right there. I'm going to read to you a little bit more than I would like, and probably a little bit more than I'm capable of under my current situation, but I want to lay out the background facts before I get to the newest information that we have. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of background, and I'll weave that into the newest information that has just come out. Okay, so we talked yesterday about that dinner where Sharamella attended with the Italian Prime Minister Renzi, which was also attended by Clapper and Comey. Previously, we learned that shortly after Trump was inaugurated, Sharamella and Sean Misko were overheard talking about how to get rid of Trump. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with how that story went down, after Flynn was named to be Trump's national security advisor, he spoke to a large group of people, which included the NSC. Sharamella and Sean Misko were in attendance, and he laid out Trump's foreign policy agenda of America First, how it relates to foreign policy. And after hearing that, at the end of that, there were multiple people overheard Misko and Sharamella saying, "We've got to get rid of Trump. We have to remove him from office." And they were not doing it quietly in a whispering fashion. They were saying it loud enough for everyone around them to hear, and they continued with this for quite a few minutes as people were leaving the auditorium. They were making it perfectly well known to anyone within probably listening distance of them. They were talking pretty loud, outwardly sharing their feelings about how they had to find a way to get rid of Trump and to have him removed from office. And this was as a result of the speech that Michael Flynn had just given. So, the next thing that happens is that Misko goes to work for Adam Schiff's committee, where he offered guidance to Sharamella, his good friend, who is, of course, the fake whistleblower. Then, these two, Misko and Sharamella, manufacture the complaint about Trump's call with Ukraine President Zelensky. Now, at that time, Sharamella was a CIA operative working at the White House as a top Ukrainian analyst in the National Security Council. Previously, Sharamella had served as Biden's advisor to Ukraine and had accompanied Biden on nearly every one of his trips to Ukraine. Misko at that time was there, also working at the NSC as an analyst. Misko also was an assistant to Biden's top national security advisor, Jake Sullivan. Both Misko and Sharamella were accused of internally leaking negative information about Trump to the media. The day after Trump's call with Ukraine President Zelensky, Colonel Vindman leaked the details of that call to Sharamella. Vindman, at the time, was holding the position that Sharamella previously held. He was the NSC director for Ukraine. And of course, Vindman was good friends with Sharamella and Misko and shared their hatred for President Trump. Now, the same day that Vindman leaks the details of the Trump-Zelensky call to Sharamella, Misko joins Schiff's committee. Misko then tells Schiff what Sharamella told him, and that was on August the 12th. Next, Sharamella was referred to attorney Andrew Bakaj, B-A-K-A-J, by a mutual friend. Bakaj had worked with Sharamella at CIA. Both Sharamella and Baca are from Connecticut. Both spent time in Ukraine. Bakaj contributed to the Biden campaign, and he once worked for the rotten Reverend Clinton. Bakaj also gives intelligence briefs to Schiff's committee chairs. Also involved in this is DOJ lawyer David Laufman, L-A-U-F-M-A-N. We've talked a lot about him. He was, of course, part of the small group that was the nucleus of the Trump coup. Laufman was also involved in the whistleblower case, the fake whistleblower case. Laufman worked on both the Clinton email case and the investigation of Trump's ties to Russia. Laufman was promoted by Obama to do legal work for FBI counterintelligence. Laufman also sat in on the Reverend Clinton's FBI interviews and the investigation regarding her emails and private server. Laufman also signed off on the wiretapping of a Trump campaign advisor. Eventually, Sharamella was directed to Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, Michael Atkinson, who was the top national security lawyer in Obama's DOJ that investigated Trump and his campaign in 2016 and 2017, where he worked closely with Laufman. Atkinson also worked closely with Mary McCord, who now works for Lawfare, and she was the one who pressured the White House to fire Michael Flynn. McCord is also working on Schiff's impeachment team as an outside counsel. That is the backstory. And there's much more. I just have to keep it short because of time. Last night, Lee Smith and Sarah Carter were on Laura Ingram's show, where they detailed how Sharamella held a key meeting in the White House in January of 2016. That was about the Biden family's activities in Ukraine. Say that again. Last night, Lee Smith and Sarah Carter were on Laura Ingram's show, where they detailed how Sharamella held a key meeting in the White House in January of 2016 that was about the Biden family's activities in Ukraine. It is time to call in Sharamella and his co-conspirators. It now seems that Sharamella was a key instigator of the Russia hoax that led to the Mueller witch hunt and the Ukraine witch hunt. Both are attempted coups of President Trump. It is time to call in this dirt ball, Sharamella, and his friends. This thing is unraveling. This thing is unraveling. When you connect the dots of all these players, it paints a pretty clear picture of exactly what is going on here. Pardon me while I get some vitamin C. Oops, got a drinking problem. For the past 2 days, on another topic, by the way, well, on a similar topic, but a different story. For the past 2 days, Rand Paul has been trying to ask a question. Justice Roberts, presiding over the trial, has refused to ask Paul's question. So what does Rand Paul do? He gets pissed off. He walks out of the hearing, and he has a brief presser, and he discloses the question that Roberts refuses to ask. And here is the question. And of course, this question was being directed at both the prosecution and the defense to answer. Here's the question. Are you aware that House Intelligence staffer Sean Misko had a close relationship with Eric Sharamella while at the NSC together? And are you aware, and how do you respond to reports that Sharamella and Misko may have worked together to plot impeaching the president before they were formal House impeachment proceedings? Never in Paul's statement does he mention the word whistleblower. Now, nobody knows. I mean, for practical purposes, nobody knows who the whistleblower is, right? I mean, even the bug-eyed fool who claims he doesn't know who the whistleblower is, doesn't know who the whistleblower is. Of course, we all know who the whistleblower is, but we're all told we don't know who the whistleblower is. So why is it such a problem to bring up the name Eric Sharamella? I mean, if nobody knows who the whistleblower is, how do we know it's Eric Sharamella? Well, the answer is because everybody knows who the whistleblower is, and it's Eric Sharamella. That's the answer. Needless to say, this thing is absolutely coming unraveled, and Rand Paul is apparently locked into this thing, and I don't think he's letting go. He's a feisty little guy. I like Rand Paul. We share the same birthday. We're the same age. I like his father a lot. I was a precinct chairman of his 2008 campaign and an alternate delegate to his campaign in 2012. I was a big supporter of Ron Paul. I've met Rand Paul one time. Had a very short, brief conversation with him. He's a very nice guy. Little guy. Smart guy. I don't agree with him on 100% of everything he does, but I think he's honest. I think he's principled, like his father. He doesn't always get it right, in my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right and he's wrong. Who knows? But still, you got to admire his courage. He absolutely knows what the hell is going on. And so do a lot of other people in that chamber of Congress who have an R after their name, but do not have the stones or do not want to get to the truth. And why is that, do you think? I'll tell you why. Because it's not just Democrats that are involved in this shady crap that was going on in Ukraine. There were Republicans also involved in that mess. Also, yesterday, we had Giuliani announcing that on Friday, today, he is going to post up his interview with fired Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin, who Biden ordered to be fired or risk losing a $1 billion loan guarantee. Giuliani will also release medical records that show that someone tried to kill Shokin by poisoning him. Now it's getting very serious. Who do you think would have been involved in that? The Rotten Reverend Clinton had a lot going on in Ukraine in 2016. We need to hear from Chalupa. What do you want to bet? She's good buddies with Sharamella. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There's a lot of digging that needs to be done here. I smell the stench. I smell the stench of a demonic buzzard. Viktor Shokin has recently filed an official complaint against Joe Biden for interference in Ukraine's legal proceedings. Legal proceedings. That was just a day or two ago. So I guess that makes him a whistleblower. Time to hold hearings on this, Lindsey Graham. Maybe Lindsey Graham himself has some things he would like to tell us about Ukraine. He and Senator Magoo made a couple trips over there and were even given Ukraine's highest award for civilians. Why do you think that is? The Gateway Pundit is reporting multiple sources telling them the impeachment hearings may be over before the weekend. McConnell has the votes. Lindsey Graham says he's got 53 votes to block witnesses. And that's just the Republicans. There might be 2 or 3 Democrats who don't want to hear from any more witnesses. There are also 2 to 3 Democrats who will likely vote to acquit. The only exception may be Romney, but I think he's just playing it up. I think when it actually comes down to it, with the pressure he's receiving back home, he'll probably fall in line as well. They could get all 53 Republicans and 2 or 3 Democrats, which would be a tremendous embarrassment for the demo commies, the Pelosi galore, bug-eyed fool, the Penguin, and the whole crew. Total egg on the face of those idiots. Carter Page. Carter Page has filed a defamation suit against the DNC and Perkins Coie over the Steele dossier. He says that this is just the beginning. There's more suits to come. Says there will be multiple lawsuits filed. When he says the DNC, what are we talking about? The Rotten Reverend Clinton. The Rotten Reverend Clinton, according to Donna Brazile, was running the DNC after she locked up the nomination in the summer of 2016. She took over and was running the DNC. All financial matters, and all other matters, for that matter, were being run by the Rotten Reverend Clinton team out of Brooklyn, New York. Read the book. It's right there. It appears that the UK government the UK government is throwing Christopher Steele under the bus. They are now officially saying they had no coordination with Steele on his dossier, and they now believe it was all pretty much fabricated. Why do you think that is? Well, probably a couple reasons. They know that he's in deep kimchi. Deep kimchi. And they don't want to have any connection to that dude whatsoever. He's got a lot of problems. Most of them legal. I'm sure John Durham's got his number. He's done a lot of lying. He was part of a coup. That's right. And of course, they're going to be wanting a trade deal. They're going to want good relations with Trump. And you're not going to have good relations with Trump if he still believes that you were involved with Christopher Steele. And I imagine if there are, now I don't necessarily believe this is true, I think there were some official people in the UK who were kind of working with Steele, but I bet those people, if they're still in the government, will be quietly pushed out. They won't be around very much longer if they're still there now, and they probably already have been pushed out. Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know how many stages of Trump derangement syndrome there are. I think we're going to find out after the 2020 election. But as I've said, I believe this is actually, we're just seeing the first couple stages. I believe there are multiple stages of Trump derangement syndrome. This seems to wear away your brain matter. People who have Trump derangement syndrome seem to suffer a significant loss of brain matter. It eats away at their brain, and they become literally stupid. Most of them were already stupid to begin with. Didn't have much brain matter to spare. But Trump derangement syndrome appears to erode it further. Here's evidence of that. Example number 1. Pelosi galore gives a press conference and tries to take credit for the USMCA. Despite the fact that everybody knows that she blocked it for 14 months. And she's saying, well, you know, the USMCA Democrats get credit for that because the original MCA was horrible, but we Democrats had to fix it. And once it got fixed, then we signed it. Lies, total lies. Absolute 100% lies. Trump negotiated USMCA with his team, and the Democrats didn't have a damn thing to do with it. They signed on to that son of a bitch, and there was no real changes made to it. Not because of the Democrats. But that's what Trump derangement syndrome does to you. Not only does it erode your brain, it makes you think that everyone else is losing brain matter as well. But the truth is, they aren't. And I can assure you, those people in the Rust Belt, in the South, and places outside the coastline know exactly what happened with USMCA. And I can promise you, they're not buying this bullshit. She also says that Trump's lawyers have embarrassed themselves and they should be disbarred. She has no idea. You know, this entire thing has backfired so badly, it's going to go down in history as probably the biggest fail, epic fail, by any sitting speaker. The last time Pelosi was the sitting speaker, she cost her party control of Congress. She's going to do it again in 2020, and then she'll probably go away. Not only that, Trump has raised tons of money off impeachment. He's drawing record crowds. His poll numbers have been skyrocketing. His support amongst blacks and Latinos has gone up double. His rallies are drawing almost half the people attending his rallies now are Democrats and independents. What a massive fail. Political fail on every level. And the thing is, what the impeachment trial has really done, because like I said, a week after it's over, the only thing anyone will be talking about is what was revealed in the hearings about Biden and the corruption in Ukraine. And a week from now, when the impeachment is all past prologue, the next thing that people will be talking about, including the mainstream media, Biden and the Ukrainians, what really happened. The Democrats have just stuck it to quid pro quo Burisma Joe, and they don't even realize it. What an epic fail. Another case, another example of Trump derangement syndrome. Hiawatha, Elizabeth Warren, was asked a question as hard as this is to believe. There's a 9-year-old transgender child. 9 years old. Transgender child. That in itself is mind-boggling. I'm trying to remember when I was 9 years old. I didn't know a damn thing about sex. Never thought about my sexual equipment or what the kids I was playing with, equipment they had. Didn't never think about it. Never crossed my mind. It's just nothing that crosses your mind when you're 9 years old about that kind of stuff. Yet this is a 9-year-old child, born female, that has gone through some process and is transgendering to a male. This poor child. Ask Hiawatha at one of her little rallies, little rally, what she was going to do to ensure fairness to transgender people. And Hiawatha actually said that before she would appoint a Secretary of Education, that Secretary of Education would have to sit down with this 9-year-old trans child and have a conversation, and then only if the 9-year-old transgender child told Elizabeth Warren that he or she, however you want to look at it, felt comfortable with this pick for Secretary of Education, would she actually go through to appoint them. She's going to check with this one little 9-year-old transgender child to be the final word on her pick for Secretary of Education. Now, personally, I want to abolish the Department of Education. That's my position. This is sick. And it's another example of Trump derangement syndrome. Here's another one. Hakeem Jeffries, during the Senate trial, tells the Senate, during these impeachment hearings, that the Steele dossier was okay. It wasn't, a violation of improper foreign interference in an election. And you know what the reason is? Why he said it's not a problem? Because they paid for it. It was not improper. The Steele dossier was okay. Not improper foreign interference because the DNC paid for it. So, if you're involved in improper foreign interference in an election, like they're saying Trump was, you're guilty. Unless you were paid or paid someone else. Unless money changed hands. So in other words, if Trump had been working with Putin, had he just paid Putin, money, then it would have been okay. The problem is, Trump didn't give Putin any money. Otherwise, it all would have been fine. That's Trump derangement syndrome. Probably stage 4. Can you imagine what stage 5, 6, 7 is going to look like? We're going to see it somewhere right around the first week of November in 2020, when Trump wins again in a landslide. How far this will go, how bad it will get, I don't know. But I expect it will be, I don't know what to expect, quite honestly, but I imagine if you're a psychologist, a psychoanalyst, or something like that, you're going to get very busy after the 2020 election. I expect the suicide rate could go up. I expect that there could be a lot of nationals leaving the country. That would be good, actually. My oh my. And there's more examples. I'm just about ready to cough my brains out, so I just can't continue. You're going to like this next story. Arrogance of the ruling class. And the poster girl for arrogance of the ruling class would be, ding, 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 ding. Everybody together now. 1, 2, 3. The rotten Reverend Clinton. Here's an example. Process servers showed up 2 times this past week to serve the rotten Reverend Clinton at her home in New York. She ordered her Secret Service to refuse and reject the documents that she was being served. Not to sign for the documents that she was being served by Tulsi Gabbard in a defamation suit. The second time, they directed the Secret Service on the rotten Reverend Clinton's order, told the process server to take it to her lawyer, David Kendall. They took it to her lawyer, David Kendall, to serve him, and he said, sorry, my client has directed me to reject these legal documents. I will not accept them, and so don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Bye-bye, fellas. The rotten Reverend Clinton rejecting to be served. In the lawsuit, defamation suit, brought by Tulsi Gabbard, who is, by the way, walking around in Iowa, but the Democratic Party is not allowing her to actually officially do anything. She's literally being blocked. Huh. My oh my. There you go. Well, a lot of things are unraveling. And I understand the Trump derangement syndrome. I think a lot of it is actually their hatred for Trump. And they're not quite being able to grasp that millions upon millions of people across the majority of the country, geographically speaking, support Trump and like his policies. They might even like him personally, but they sure as hell like his policies, and they just can't figure it out. They can't accept it, or they don't believe it. They're going to get a very, very rude awakening in the first week of November of 2020. But I think there's something more going on here. I think that they know what's in store for them and what's coming down the road as a result of the Durham investigation. And I can assure you that once that happens, that once Durham steps up to the podium and announces the indictments against the coup plotters, that the vicious attack on he, Barr, Trump, and anyone else is going to be just, off the charts. We'll have never seen any attack quite like it. It could be worse than what they've leveled against Trump. I have reason to believe that certain organizations tied to Soros and the Right Reverend Clinton and others likely have contingency plans for mass civil unrest, protests, riots, and everything you can imagine to protest when the criminal coup plotters are brought to justice. My guess is that Barr and people around him probably are aware of these plans. And that's why I told you a long time ago, this is very, very tricky business. How you do it is going to be very tricky. And you are going to have absolute 100% airtight, solid evidence. There can be no holes or gaps. That is why Durham is having to be so thorough in his investigation. He has to close every single possible loophole because he knows he cannot allow a single space because it will be exploited and turned against he and Attorney General Barr, the president, and anyone who supports bringing the coup plotters to justice. That is what things are looking like today, from my view. Some of you would disagree. That's okay. Just one man's opinion. Okay, well, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys be safe. See you. Bye.